Hello, I'm Morgan Knull with Feed Your Genes, and I'm here today with.
Dr. Penny Kendall-Reed from GeneRx.ca.
So, Dr. Penny, today I want to talk about a frustrating topic. When we're trying to lose weight, we're doing everything we're supposed to do. We think we're on our genetic diet, we've got the protein right, but the scale isn't moving. Maybe it's even going up by a pound. Can you help me understand this, please?
For sure. So there's a couple of different reasons why people would lose at a different rate or not lose. But first of all, we have to look at, is it actually that they're not losing weight? So when people start a diet and exercise program, particularly the right one for their body, they'll often gain muscle and lose fat. But muscle weighs twice as much as fat. Exactly. I know that you were one of those people. And I see this frequently. They're like, well, my clothes are really changing in size, but I haven't lost the weight. So that, I'm like, deep breath, we're on the right track because muscle's where we burn our fat. So that's what we want. But there are a couple of other reasons. And the first is stress. Stress is a huge one. Particularly right now, our whole world is turned upside down, and that's very stressful. But people often underestimate their stress response. And they think, well, I'm not actually as stressed as this report might say I should be, or they think I've handled it really well. Just because you don't physically have panic attacks doesn't mean that your cortisol or your stress hormone is not high in your body. And cortisol will drop the rate of fat burning independent of what we're doing from 92% down to 35%. It will triple the release of insulin to carbohydrates that we're eating. You may have really reined in those carbohydrates from your genetic diet, but if the cortisol is up there, it takes precedence over everything. And it's going to still treat that one apple like three apples. Cortisol also turns 90% of genes to their adverse position. So as we're trying to fight, say, your adiponectin and your leptin and your ghrelin in your metabolism with trimetabolic control and the diet, cortisol is winning over here by turning it all off. So really take a look at that and start boosting up your stress management treatment, whether it's with the Serotonin Plus, whether it's through meditation, yoga, all of them. The other thing we need to take a look at is sleep, which is also part of the stress category. Sleeping just 1 hour less per night, so 7 hours versus 8 hours, in 4 days is enough to change our insulin levels by 11%. In 2 weeks, it's enough to start gaining weight. 1 hour less per night. That's if you're going into the right stage of sleep. So we need to make sure that those two areas are really well controlled. And another area we might not think about, dopamine. Dopamine is our reward motivating chemical messenger, our addictive messenger. Exercise is a fantastic way to boost dopamine. So if somebody codes low for dopamine and we think, okay, well, we could use some Focus Plus or Dopa Plus, or we can also target exercise more frequently to boost the dopamine. That's great if we're using the exercise. But dopamine receptors also are on the kidneys. And if we don't target dopamine through the kidneys, we bloat and swell a lot. So we need to actually give extra potassium there to help decrease that bloat. So those are three areas that I see pop up with genetics when people are doing everything quote right, but not getting the results that they need to see really quickly. And again, those cases are far and few between, but 99% of the time, it's one of those three areas.
I can attest to seeing that firsthand, that if someone's plateauing, I'm first asking, well, what stress level, like what is sleep doing? And the dopamine one is very interesting because as you and I have talked about snackers, people who need to eat that whole bag of chips, and both of us having experienced that in our time before addressing genetics, the presence of dopamine is making such an impact on reward seeking, the snackers, the people who can't stop. And then it's coming into play here with that bloating and preventing weight gain. So how would you say that, like, not being able to look at neurotransmitter genetics is going to be a problem when you're trying to help someone lose weight?
It truly is, because ghrelin, when we're looking at our hunger hormone, ghrelin is not just our hunger hormone. It also stimulates all the dopaminergic pathways in the VTA, the area of the brain that is for addiction and that messaging system of just, I want to go get more and more and more. Also low dopamine, like as you and I know, because we both code low for dopamine, it makes you crave those cheese, those chips, those nuts, the wine, the savory foods. And sometimes you need to support that dopamine to help get through those cravings. The low serotonin person, they're the ones that crave the chocolates and the sweets and the cookies. That's not me. I couldn't care less about those. I could live off cheese and nuts and wine if you let me, until until I treated those. So looking at neurotransmitters really has a huge impact on it. To be honest with you, weight is completely controlled from here up, not here down. Most of our body is controlled from here up. And so it has, you really have to look at the body as a whole. You can't not look at inflammation. We make a ton of interleukin-6 in our fat cells. The more fat we have, the more interleukin-6 we have, and that's going to inhibit weight loss. So we got to treat that inflammatory side. You really have to look at the body as a whole. You can't separate out one part.
Yeah. And just one last question for you on that. When someone is kind of in that plateau, hey, the scale's not saying what I want it to say, and you're really trying to support the cortisol levels or whatever, what are you telling them? Like, hey, this is going to be a few weeks, like keep on your genetic diet, but we really need to address that cortisol. Is that a conversation you have?
It's the exact conversation I have. And sometimes I'll boost up their Serotonin Plus almost to double what the report might say. Get that cortisol down. And once it starts shifting down, the weight starts coming off, and then they can start to drop the doses again. But it's all, some bodies love patterning so much that they hold on to it. And so we're pushing it to move away from that pattern. Start dropping the weight. Don't hold on to it. And you might be doing everything right. Just need a bigger push at first.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dr. Penny, because this was a question that I've had several practitioners ask me and reach out and say that they wanted us to address today. So we're happy to answer any questions that you guys may have in our upcoming little clips. And Dr. Penny, as always, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.